Thank you, Sarah. And yes, I'm Kerry Flynn. I'm here with the amazing CEO of Business Insider. Thanks so much for joining us today, Barbara.
Oh, thank you for having me, Carrie. And thank you, Sarah, for that wonderful introduction. If I could be called anything, fashionable sounds lovely.
Yeah, I mean, admittedly, I just took a wristband off my wrist, so that's where I'm at. But anyway, Barbara, want to start on. You guys had big news last month where you laid off
Yep.
21% of your staff. You had a whole memo about it. I read that. I don't know if everyone here has, but I would love if you could speak to us about, was that decision driven by internal economic issues, or was it you looking out into the landscape and preparing for the future?
Yep, great question. Decisions like this are very difficult. We had to let go of a lot of really talented people, and that's hard for an organization. But the reason we made these changes was because of our strategy. About a year and a half ago, I took us back to being Business Insider after we were Insider for many years and focused us back in on our core and our strengths and what people love about us, which is business, tech, and innovation journalism. So part of this is changes putting us back in track and expediting that. The other part, which I think is really important and a lot of publishers are thinking about and feeling right now, is we have a responsibility, and Neil touched on this a little bit as well. We have a responsibility to build a sustainable business. If we can't support ourselves, we actually can't do all of the great journalism that we want to and really reach that potential. So what we did was we pulled back out of some traffic-driven businesses that have some level of sensitivity, which is, we're very diversified as Business Insider, but that doesn't mean that we're completely insulated. And then we refocus into areas that diversify us outside of those areas. So one is video. And we have really great engagement, and we see a future there and a lot of opportunity. And then the other is events. So we recently launched BI Live, and we believe that that very much will bring us much closer to our audience. We've already been doing events for quite some time. It's our third year in Cannes doing our CMO breakfast. So all of those things are very much to support us and allow us to do what we need to do.
Can you clarify a little bit more on what you pulled back from? I have here in the memo, you said scaling back from categories that once performed well on other platforms, but no longer drive meaningful readership. And I feel like that'd be a great insight to know of what no longer drives meaningful readership these days for a media company, for BI.
Yep, I think you just have to be really smart about what areas I think performed incredibly well on other platforms, like in a really distributed world, and make those tough choices. And then other areas like our commerce business. I think it's different in other parts of the world, but very much in the US, commerce is driven by SEO and Google, and it's just not a very steady and reliable place these days.
That makes sense. And in terms of the impact we're also seeing with the written word, generative AI, there's been a lot of coverage recently. We see it in the numbers about the impact. And again, we talked about looking ahead, right? That's only going to change. I'm curious about how your newsroom is using generative AI. How internally is it affecting what reporters do, what your sales reps do? Take us inside generative AI at BI.
Yep, I love it. AI at BI. So this just in general is not new for Business Insider. We were born in the moment that the smartphone launched, and it was really a moment that we embraced. We were very curious. We found joy in it. We tried things and we're risk tolerant, and we're approaching this moment exactly the same. The way we think about it is in three levels. First is the individual level. So day to day, our employees globally, can they use AI? Do they have access to it? Do they have training on how to use prompts? So we worked really hard on that. And actually at this point, 80% of Business Insider employees worldwide are using ChatGPT Enterprise regularly, which is wonderful.
Do you have a deal with OpenAI?
We do. We were one of the early organizations as part of Axel Springer who launched a partnership, which I'm incredibly proud of, especially given how early it was. It really kind of set the precedent that, journalism, we need to be compensated for it. And then it's not for free.
And then, like you're saying, it is empowering your journalists. So I'm wondering again, I believe it just came out last week that you guys are using AI to produce audio journalism. Tell us more about that. And again, how else are you empowering and using AI internally to produce, again, work?
Yep, absolutely. So that first level, the individual level, there's two others. So one, we think about workflows and automation of workflows. So the day-to-day of a journalist is very different than the day-to-day of a salesperson, and we put that in the hands and the ownership of our team leaders and our executives to really work through that. But what you're alluding to is the third level, which we think about as productization. So as an organization, how can we better engage our audience? How can we better surface our journalism and bring them into our stories? Last year, we launched generative AI search on our site, and something actually really remarkable happened. The click-through rate on the results was 50% higher than before. So it was a really nice entry point. So we built upon that, and recently in the last week launched an audio briefing tool, which takes the top stories. It's live produced and generated that our editors and our journalists choose, and gives an audio summary as well as a written summary of what the top headlines are, and people have the opportunity to click in and to skip ahead. And what we love about it is for Business Insider, we don't have an audio product, and this is our first foray into it. You could imagine that this really opens up other time in the day, other audiences that wouldn't have had access to us. So think about your walk to work, or as you're doing other things. It's really been exciting to see.
I'm curious, how do you monetize products like that, though? Because again, if they're not looking and clicking into a Business Insider story and looking at an ad, you're not making money from these people who are listening on their way to work.
It's like I'm talking to my CRO. So that's an excellent question, Kerry. So one of the things you have to think about, especially with innovation and trying things, is you kind of have to give a little bit of space for the product to launch and to take hold and what have you. I think if you spend too much time before the launch or before you know exactly what the thing is, building to monetize it, you're kind of a little bit wasting a bit of the team's time. It might change or what have you. So the way that we think about it is, if we can engage the audience, if we can bring them value, we can monetize it afterwards. So this audio tool we launched, I expect it to change in the next week, 4 weeks, 6 weeks, what have you, to really better, iterate on the things that work, drop other things. Maybe it's not on our homepage anymore. So leaving the space for the team to really be risk tolerant and try things is incredibly important. And then obviously very quickly following up with monetization is good.
Well, I imagine one thing you could do and other outlets have done is have audio be subscription. Or we had Spotify on our stage earlier. You can obviously shove ads in between. So we'll have to keep the conversation going on there. I did want to talk about your other distribution strategies. So you said that you guys are investing more in video. Where are you seeing audiences on video? Is it primarily YouTube? Is it TikTok? Are you just reposting all these videos everywhere? Walk us through that.
Yep, great question. So we were actually pretty early to social video, and is unfortunately a really best kept secret at Business Insider is we have a massive video audience and engagement. So it's roughly about I think 14 billion minutes watched per year, which is a huge amount of time people are spending with us. It's across many different channels. A lot of it is YouTube, where we have audiences that want to engage very deeply with us. We have over 10 original series, and people like to watch that not only on their mobile phones, but with the rise of smart TV and a lot of the streaming options, that's been huge. So right now we're thinking about kind of the next and new slate of shows and how we want to better engage our audiences.
To put back on my CRO hat, can you walk us through what your revenue looks like right now? I know you just talked about video, right, where you're using YouTube, you can make money through that. There's ads on your site. BI also, I'm a subscriber. I'm a BI subscriber, so I give you money every year. But I'm wondering what it looks like now, but how do you see it changing in the future? I know we can't predict the future, but what's your kind of goal? Oh, and you mentioned before that you used to have a commerce business, but you pulled back from that. So again, how it's changing.
Okay, if you're my CRO, you'd know what our revenue is. Excellent question. So what we want to see is a mix of revenue that is more heavily weighted to subscriptions, events. We very much believe that that can be a huge part of our business in future, and pulling back from a lot of these businesses that have huge sensitivity to the ups and downs of traffic. So things like open, we still have a very small commerce business. I can see that being part of it, but just much smaller over time. I also think that, throughout all of this, at some point, there's going to be a settling. I unfortunately don't think it's soon. But I think there's going to be a settling in distribution, and there's going to be a rise of some of these newer platforms that are going to be meaningful. I mean, I'm sure all of you have been tracking that people are actually now spending a good chunk of time on ChatGPT. I don't know if you're using it. If you were my CRO,
Yes,
you'd
we
have
all,
to.
Axios also has a partnership with OpenAI, so we do use it internally. I agree. I was chatting with someone recently, a creator, who is like, so much time spent is happening on ChatGPT that it's taking away from content consumption elsewhere. So yes, looking ahead, I was wondering if there's anything else that you haven't said that you guys are invested in right now that you think perhaps like people are underestimating, but you think is a smart bet for a media company, for BI right now?
Excellent question. I think a lot of people are leaning into events. I'm just going to go back. I already mentioned it, but I do think that there's something there with video. I think it's a place where people are used to consuming that content, and we just haven't seen, I even think a lot of publishers haven't really pushed into that space and tried some new things. So I think that's something to watch.
Well, we're unfortunately out of time. I want to end on one fun thing. What's a BI story that I should read on my flight home? So I obviously want something fun, something that'll entertain me, because I got to stay awake on this flight.
Oh my gosh, you're giving me a lot of work up here, Kerry. I don't know. If I knew you were a BI subscriber, I would have looked at a little bit of your preference, or we would have chatted more
Oh my gosh,
about
you're going to look at my personal data?
No, I would never do that. I would never do that. Let me look into it. I would never do that.
What's the story that you've enjoyed that you've read recently? Sorry to like make you pick a baby. I'm not telling you to pick a favorite reporter, but like, what's a good story?
Well, so you did tell me that you love real estate stories. Our real estate
I want to know who owns this villa. I want to know how much.
We are very good at that. I mean, you could literally just go through our real estate page, and I think you enjoy it. So a story I read recently that you might enjoy, especially around a lot of what's happening in AI, is Peter Kafka wrote a story about Meta just kind of still acqui-hire. I think it's called. I'm blanking out on the name, but the founder is Alexander Wang, and he paid $15 billion for
Scale AI.
Yeah, Scale AI, exactly. And it's just a really interesting play there. And I think he's about 28 years old, and it's just really interesting of some of these new ideas and fresh faces that are really bringing some great ideas to the scene.
Amazing. Well, I'm looking forward to reading that on the flight home. Barbara, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you all for joining us here at Axios House. We have more programming to come, so please stick with us. We'll be elsewhere. I'm really looking forward to more conversations throughout the week, but then reading more BI stories on my way home. And please invite us to your future events, Barbara, since that's a new business for you guys.
Awesome. Thank you, Carrie.
Thank you again.